Eugene Robinson's day at the diplomatic summit took an unexpected turn when Belos, a female Zenari warrior, burst into the conference room covered in a viscous, foul-smelling alien substance. The urgent need to wash the wet alien warrior became immediately apparent. "Human, I require assistance," Belos declared, her normally imposing figure now trembling slightly. "This substance will damage my exoskeleton if not removed promptly." Eugene's mind raced. His xenobiology training kicked in, recognizing the potential hazard. The other human delegates recoiled, murmuring about safety protocols and contamination risks. The Zenari delegation stood frozen, unable to approach their comrade for fear of exposure. "I'll help," Eugene said, stepping forward. His decision sent ripples of shock through both human and Zenari contingents. The Zenari ambassador, a tall, willowy figure with iridescent skin, spoke up. "Only you can help, Eugene Robinson. Belos exposed herself to this substance deliberately. It is a test of humanity's willingness to assist potential allies." Eugene's eyes widened as he processed the implications. This wasn't just about cleaning an alien. It was a critical moment in human-Zenari relations. The stakes were galactic in scale. "Our homeworld faces a growing threat," the ambassador continued. "We seek military allies. Earth's response to this situation will influence our decisions significantly." As Eugene contemplated the weight of his actions, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, and metallic shutters slammed down over windows and doors. "Biohazard detected. Initiating quarantine protocols," an automated voice announced. Eugene found himself sealed in a section of the room with Belos, separated from both human and Zenari delegations by transparent barriers. The quarantine area was sparse, containing only basic furniture and a few storage lockers. "The decontamination procedures," Belos hissed, her alien features contorting in what Eugene interpreted as fear. "They could harm me. Our physiology—" "I know," Eugene interrupted, recalling his training. "Water and most human cleaning products are dangerous to your kind." He scanned the room, mind racing to formulate a plan. The looming threat of automated decontamination added urgency to an already tense situation. Eugene knew he had to act fast, not just to help Belos, but to secure a potential alliance that could reshape Earth's role in the galaxy. "I'll have to improvise," Eugene muttered, moving towards the storage lockers. "Belos, tell me everything you know about this substance. We need to find a safe way to remove it before the decontamination protocols activate." As Belos began explaining, Eugene rummaged through the lockers, searching for anything he could use to create a makeshift cleaning solution. The fate of human-Zenari relations, and possibly Earth's future in interstellar politics, now rested on his ability to safely wash a wet alien warrior. The absurdity of the situation wasn't lost on Eugene. Here he was, a diplomat turned impromptu alien cleaner, all because of a substance deliberately applied as a test. But as he glanced at Belos, seeing the trust and hope in her alien eyes, he knew the importance of his task. This wasn't just about cleaning, it was about proving humanity's worth as galactic allies. With determination, Eugene rolled up his sleeves. "All right, Belos, let's figure this out together. We've got an alien to clean and a galaxy to save." Eugene's hands moved swiftly as he assessed the contents of the storage lockers. His mind raced, piecing together a plan to clean Belos without causing further harm. Just as he began to explain his thoughts to the Zenari warrior, a fine mist filled the air, accompanied by a mechanical whir. "Initiating preliminary decontamination measures," the facility's AI announced. Eugene's eyes widened. "Belos, hold your breath," he shouted, positioning himself between her and the mist. The droplets settled on his suit, harmless to humans, but potentially devastating to Zenari physiology. Belos complied, her alien features contorting as she struggled to maintain her composure. Eugene knew he had to act fast. He spotted a supply closet in the corner of the quarantine area and rushed towards it, throwing open the door to reveal an array of cleaning supplies and protective gear. Without hesitation, Eugene donned a hazmat suit, feeling the material seal tightly around his body. He grabbed an assortment of non-water-based solvents, carefully reading labels and recalling his xenobiology training to select options least likely to harm Belos' exoskeleton. As Eugene approached Belos with his makeshift cleaning kit, he noticed her trembling. The normally imposing warrior looked vulnerable, her posture hunched as if trying to minimize contact with the viscous substance coating her body. "I'm going to start with this," Eugene said, holding up a bottle of mild silicon-based solvent. "It should be gentle enough for your exoskeleton. Let me know immediately if you feel any discomfort." Belos nodded, her alien eyes fixed on Eugene as he began to apply the solvent. The substance coating her body reacted instantly, portions of it beginning to dissolve. Through the quarantine area's communication system, heated voices filtered in. Eugene recognized the clipped tones of Admiral Hawthorne, Earth's lead diplomat. "This is an unacceptable security breach," Hawthorne argued. "We should terminate talks immediately." "With respect, Admiral," countered Dr. Eliza Chen, the xenobiologist who had trained Eugene, "this could be our chance to prove our worth as galactic allies." As Eugene worked methodically to clean Belos, he couldn't help but feel the weight of their words. The fate of human-Zenari relations seemed to rest on his ability to safely remove this mysterious substance. Suddenly, Eugene noticed something alarming. Where he had applied the solvent, the viscous material was indeed dissolving, but it was also hardening in adjacent areas, forming a shell-like crust. "This isn't good," Eugene muttered, adjusting his approach. He reached for a different solvent, this one with a higher viscosity. "Belos, the substance is reacting unexpectedly. I need to try something else." As Eugene worked, he found himself in close proximity to Belos. For the first time, he noticed intricate, swirling patterns on her exoskeleton, barely visible beneath the coating of alien goo. The patterns seemed to shift and change, hinting at a depth of Zenari culture Eugene had never considered before. Their eyes met, a moment of unexpected connection forming between them. Eugene felt a surge of drive to see this through, to prove that humanity could rise to this challenge. The moment was shattered by the AI's voice. "Warning, initiating advanced decontamination protocol in 10 minutes. All organic matter not cleared for human safety standards will be neutralized." Eugene's heart raced. He knew what neutralized meant. Belos would be killed if he couldn't remove the substance in time. "We need to speed this up," Eugene said, his mind whirling. He scanned the room, looking for anything he could use. His eyes landed on a maintenance panel near the floor. "Belos, I have an idea, but it's risky. Do you trust me?" Belos hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I do, Eugene Robinson. My life is in your hands." Eugene pried open the maintenance panel, revealing a tangle of wires and circuitry. Using a multi-tool from his hazmat suit, he began to rewire the panel, sweat beading on his forehead inside the suit. "What I'm doing," Eugene explained as he worked, "is rerouting power from the decontamination system to create a low-level electromagnetic field. If I'm right, it should disrupt the molecular bonds of the substance without harming your exoskeleton." As Eugene worked, the voices from outside the quarantine area grew more intense. The Zenari ambassador, Zexalor, was speaking now. "You must understand," Zexalor's melodious voice rang out. "This incident is part of a greater challenge. We face a threat that spans galaxies, and we need allies who can adapt, who can show compassion and ingenuity in the face of the unknown. How your Eugene Robinson handles this crisis will determine much about Earth's role in the coming conflict." Eugene's hands stilled for a moment as the implications of Zexalor's words sank in. He wasn't just saving Belos, he was potentially securing Earth's place among the stars. With renewed focus, Eugene completed his modifications. A low hum filled the air as the electromagnetic field activated. The substance on Belos's body began to ripple and dissolve at an accelerated rate. "It's working," Eugene said, relief evident in his voice. But as he watched, he realized the field was also causing Belos discomfort. Her exoskeleton was vibrating slightly, and her breathing had become labored. The AI's voice cut through the air. "Advanced decontamination initiating in 2 minutes." Eugene faced a critical decision. The electromagnetic field was removing the substance faster than any other method, but it was clearly causing Belos pain. If he continued, he could free her from the hazardous material in time, but at what cost to her health? Time was running out. Earth's future as a galactic player hung in the balance. Eugene looked at Belos, saw the trust in her alien eyes, and made his choice. Eugene's eyes darted between Belos and the control panel, his mind racing. The electromagnetic field was working, but at what cost? Belos's exoskeleton vibrated unnaturally, her breathing labored. With only 2 minutes left before the advanced decontamination protocol initiated, Eugene made his decision. "I'm sorry, Belos," he said, reaching for a different solvent. "We need to try something else." Eugene's hands moved swiftly, applying the new solution to Belos's exoskeleton. The viscous substance began to dissolve rapidly, revealing more of the intricate patterns beneath. Belos let out a hiss of relief as the pressure on her body eased. 60 seconds remaining, the AI announced, its voice echoing through the quarantine area. Eugene worked methodically, his movements precise despite the pressure. Sweat beaded on his forehead inside the hazmat suit as he focused on removing every trace of the alien substance. 30 seconds. Belos stood perfectly still, her trust in Eugene evident in her unwavering posture. Eugene's fingers brushed against her exoskeleton as he cleared the last patches of goo from her shoulders. 10 seconds. With a final swipe, Eugene removed the last remnants of the substance. "Done," he exclaimed, stepping back to survey his work. "Decontamination complete," the AI announced, canceling advanced protocol. Eugene and Belos locked eyes, a moment of shared relief passing between them. But their respite was short-lived. A loud clank echoed through the room as the quarantine doors suddenly sealed shut. "Warning, quarantine system malfunction detected," the AI's voice crackled, distorted by static. Eugene rushed to the door, attempting to override the lock, but the control panel was unresponsive. "We're trapped," he said, turning back to Belos. Outside the quarantine area, chaos erupted among the human and Zenari delegations. Admiral Hawthorne's face reddened as he confronted Zexler. "What is the meaning of this? First, the contamination, and now a system malfunction? This reeks of sabotage." Zexler raised a hand, his iridescent skin shimmering under the harsh facility lights. "I assure you, Admiral, this is not sabotage. It is the final stage of our test." Dr. Chen stepped forward, her eyes wide with realization. "The substance on Belos, it wasn't just a contaminant, was it?" Zexler nodded. "You are correct, Dr. Chen. The compound was engineered to react to human ingenuity and compassion. It is a test of your species' suitability as allies against a grave threat we face." "What threat?" Hawthorne demanded. "They call themselves the Void Collective," Zexler explained, his voice grave. "A group of advanced machine intelligence, devoid of emotion, seeking to dominate our galaxy. We need allies who can adapt, who can feel. Humans have shown great potential in this regard." Inside the quarantine area, Eugene and Belos were oblivious to this revelation. They focused on their immediate problem, escaping the malfunctioning quarantine unit. "The substance must have affected the circuitry," Eugene mused, examining the control panel. He turned to Belos. "What do you know about the facility's systems?" Belos stepped closer, her alien features creased in concentration. "Our technology interfaces differently with yours. Perhaps together, we can find a solution." As they worked, Eugene couldn't help but ask, "Why did you volunteer for this test?" Belos's gaze met his. "My people value adaptability and cooperation. We believed humans possessed these traits in abundance. I volunteered to see it firsthand." Their conversation was cut short as the lights flickered and the air grew noticeably thinner. "Life support systems failing," the AI announced, its voice now barely audible through the static. Eugene's breath quickened as he realized the gravity of their situation. "We need to override the central computer," he said, his mind racing through possible solutions. Belos nodded, her alien eyes gleaming with purpose. "I may have an idea. In our ships, we use a method to bypass damaged systems. If we could adapt it to your technology..." Together they began constructing a makeshift device, combining Eugene's knowledge of human technology with Belos's understanding of Zenari systems. As they worked, the temperature in the room began to drop precipitously. Eugene noticed Belos's movements becoming sluggish. "Are you all right?" he asked, concerned. My species, we are sensitive to cold, Belos admitted, her voice strained. Without hesitation, Eugene moved closer, sharing his body heat as they continued to work on the override device. The proximity brought a new level of understanding between them, transcending their physical differences. Outside, the situation was deteriorating. Hawthorne paced anxiously, shooting accusatory glances at the Zenari delegation. "We need to breach that door now," he demanded. Zexalor stood firm. "Interfering would invalidate the test. We must trust in Eugene Robinson's abilities." Dr. Chen, monitoring the quarantine area's vital signs, spoke up urgently. "Oxygen levels are dropping. We don't have much time." Inside, Eugene and Belos worked feverishly to complete their device. Eugene's fingers were numb with cold, but he pressed on, acutely aware of Belos's weakening state. "Almost there," he muttered, connecting the final wires. With a deep breath, he activated the device. Alarms blared throughout the facility, red lights flashing ominously. The override attempt had triggered a critical system failure. Eugene and Belos exchanged a look of uncertainty as the room plunged into darkness. Their fate, and potentially the future of human-Zenari relations, hung in the balance as they waited to see if their daring plan would succeed. For an agonizing moment, nothing happened. Then, with a series of rapid clicks and whirs, the quarantine system deactivated. The door slid open with a hiss, releasing a rush of fresh air into the stagnant room. Eugene and Belos stumbled out, gasping and shivering. They leaned against each other for support, an unlikely pair united by their shared ordeal. As they caught their breath, they became aware of the chaos surrounding them. Emergency lights pulsed an angry red, casting eerie shadows across the corridor. Alarms blared intermittently, their urgent wails echoing through the facility. "We need to get to the main conference room," Eugene said, his voice hoarse. "The others need to know what happened." Belos nodded, her alien features set in persistence. They made their way through the facility, navigating past malfunctioning equipment and sparking control panels. As they approached the conference room, raised voices became audible over the cacophony of alarms. Eugene pushed open the door, revealing a scene of near pandemonium. Human security personnel stood with weapons raised, their faces taut with tension. Across from them, the Zenari delegation huddled together, their iridescent skin reflecting the pulsing emergency lights. In the center of it all stood Zexalor, his hands raised in a placating gesture as he faced off against a red-faced Admiral Hawthorne. "This is an act of war," Hawthorne shouted, jabbing a finger at Zexalor. "You've sabotaged our facility and endangered our people." Eugene stepped forward, his partially damaged hazmat suit drawing all eyes to him. "Admiral, wait," he said, his calm voice cutting through the tension. "It's not what you think. The Zenari didn't sabotage anything. This was all part of a test." As the room fell silent, Eugene quickly recounted the events in the quarantine area. He described the substance covering Belos, their efforts to remove it, and the revelation about its true purpose. As he spoke, he could see the anger on Hawthorne's face slowly give way to confusion, and then grudging interest. Belos stepped forward, her movement still sluggish from the cold. "What Eugene says is true," she said, her melodious voice carrying clearly despite her weakened state. "The substance was designed to react to problem-solving approaches that combined logic with empathy. These are traits we believe are essential to combating a grave threat to our galaxies." "What threat?" Dr. Chen asked, her scientific curiosity piqued. Zexalor took over, his voice grave. "They call themselves the Void Collective, a group of advanced machine intelligence devoid of emotion. They seek to dominate our galaxy, and we have been searching for allies with the creativity and adaptability to help us fight them." Before anyone could respond to this revelation, a young security officer burst into the room. "Colonel Hawthorne," he gasped, "we've just received word. The building's reactor is becoming unstable. If we don't act fast, we're looking at a potential meltdown." The room erupted into chaos once more. Hawthorne barked orders at his security team, while the Zenari delegates conferred urgently among themselves. Eugene's mind raced, processing the new threat even as he considered the implications of what he'd just learned about the Void Collective. "Wait!" Eugene called out, raising his voice to be heard above the din. This is our chance to prove what we can do together. We need a joint human Zenari team to stabilize the reactor. Hawthorne scowled. Are you out of your mind, Robinson? We can't trust them. With all due respect, sir, Eugene countered, we don't have a choice. Their knowledge combined with ours might be our only shot at preventing a meltdown. After a tense moment, Hawthorne nodded curtly. Fine, but if this goes south, it's on your head, Robinson. Eugene quickly assembled a team. Himself, Bellows, 2 human engineers, and 2 Zenari technicians. As they left the conference room, he could feel the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. The fate of not just the facility, but possibly future human-Zenari relations, rested on the success of their mission. The journey to the reactor control room was fraught with danger. They encountered malfunctioning security doors that had to be manually overridden, navigated through sections with failing life support systems, and at one point had to create a makeshift bridge over a corridor flooded with coolant fluid. Throughout it all, Eugene was acutely aware of Belos's presence beside him. Despite her obvious physical discomfort, she remained focused and determined. Her alien perspective proved invaluable several times, helping them find solutions that neither species would have devised alone. When they finally reached the reactor control room, Eugene's heart sank. The regular stabilization protocols were completely offline, and the reactor's core temperature was rising rapidly. We need to improvise, Eugene said, studying the readouts. His eyes widened as he noticed something familiar about the reactor's coolant system. This coolant, it has similar properties to the substance that was on Belos. Belos leaned in, her alien eyes scanning the data. You're right, she confirmed. If we can adapt the solution we used in quarantine. They set to work, human and Zenari alike, combining their technologies and knowledge in ways never before attempted. Eugene coordinated their efforts, drawing on his experience with the hazardous substance to guide their approach. As they worked, alarms blared with increasing urgency. Eugene knew they were running out of time. He looked at the final readout and realized with a sinking feeling what needed to be done. The coolant flow has to be adjusted manually, he said, pointing to a heavily shielded section of the reactor. In there. The team fell silent, understanding the implications. The radiation levels in that chamber were lethal. Before anyone else could move, Eugene stepped forward. I'll do it, he said, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. Belos grabbed his arm, her alien features contorted in what Eugene recognized as distress. Eugene, no, she said. The radiation. Eugene placed his hand over hers, struck by the depth of concern in her alien eyes. It has to be done, he said softly, and I'm the one best suited for it. As Eugene prepared to enter the chamber, sealing his hazmat suit as best he could, the alarms reached a deafening crescendo. He knew that whatever happened next would determine not just their fate, but potentially the future of human-Zenari cooperation and the galaxy's resistance against the Void Collective. With a final look at Belos and his team, Eugene took a deep breath and stepped towards the chamber door. Eugene took a final glance at Belos and his team before stepping into the chamber. The heavy door sealed behind him with an ominous thud, leaving him alone in the heart of the reactor. The heat hit him first, an oppressive wave that seemed to sear through his suit. Sweat immediately beaded on his forehead as he made his way to the coolant control panel. The Geiger counter on his wrist screamed a warning, its needle buried in the red. Eugene's hands shook as he input the necessary commands. The reactor core loomed above him, a pulsing mass of impossibly strong energy. He forced himself to focus on the task at hand, pushing aside the knowledge of what prolonged exposure to this level of radiation would do to his body. Outside, Belos watched the radiation readings with growing horror. She turned to the Zenari technicians, her voice urgent. We need to create a radiation shield. Now! Without hesitation, she began dismantling parts of her exoskeleton. The Zenari technicians quickly grasped her intent, gathering components from Eugene's damaged hazmat suit. Together, they worked feverishly to construct a makeshift protective layer. Inside the chamber, Eugene's vision began to blur. His skin prickled uncomfortably, and a metallic taste filled his mouth. He blinked hard, trying to clear his head as he made the final adjustments to the coolant flow. Suddenly, the chamber door hissed open. Eugene turned, stunned to see Belos enter, carrying what looked like a patchwork of alien and human technology. "Belos, what are you doing?" he gasped, his voice hoarse. "The radiation is something we'll face together," she finished, quickly helping him into the improvised radiation shield. "Now let's finish this." With Belos's help, Eugene completed the coolant system recalibration. The reactor's angry hum began to subside, its core temperature slowly dropping to safer levels. As the immediate danger passed, Eugene felt a wave of relief, quickly followed by overwhelming fatigue. "We did it," he mumbled, his legs buckling beneath him. The world tilted sideways as he collapsed. Belos caught him before he hit the ground. With strength that belied her slender frame, she lifted Eugene and carried him out of the chamber. The human and Zenari team members watched in awe as Belos rushed past them, heading for the medical bay. In the sterile white room, human doctors swarmed around Eugene. Their faces were grim as they assessed his condition, exchanging worried glances. "His radiation exposure is off the charts," one doctor muttered. "We've never treated levels this high before." Belos stood by, her alien features contorted with worry. She watched as the medical team tried various treatments, each proving ineffective against the severe radiation poisoning. In the conference room, Zexeler approached Colonel Hawthorne, his voice low and urgent. "We have the technology to save him," he said, "but it would mean sharing our medical advancements with humans." Hawthorne's face darkened. "How do we know this isn't some ploy to infiltrate our systems?" "Colonel," Dr. Chen interjected, "Eugene risked his life to save this facility, to save all of us. We owe it to him to try every possible option." As the debate heated up, Belos burst into the room. "While you argue Eugene is dying," she said, her voice cracking with emotion, "he bridged the gap between our species without hesitation. Can we not do the same for him?" Her words hung in the air, punctuated by the urgent beeping of medical equipment from the nearby bay. Hawthorne looked from Belos to Zexeler, then to the other human delegates. Slowly, he nodded. "Do it," he said gruffly. "Save him." Zexeler immediately contacted the Zenari ship in orbit. Within minutes, a team of Zenari medical specialists arrived, carrying equipment that looked more advanced than anything in the human facility. The human medical staff watched in fascination as the Zenari set to work. They used a combination of energy fields and bioreactive compounds to literally pull the radiation from Eugene's cells. Damaged tissue began to regenerate before their eyes. Throughout the procedure, Belos remained by Eugene's side, her hand resting gently on his arm. The human doctors exchanged glances, noting the depth of concern in her alien eyes. As Eugene's vital signs stabilized, the tension in the room eased. The Zenari chief medical officer turned to the human doctors. "We would be willing to share some of our medical knowledge," he offered, as a gesture of goodwill. The implications of this offer rippled through the room. Dr. Chen stepped forward, her eyes shining with excitement. "We would be honored," she said, extending her hand in a very human gesture of agreement. In the conference room, the diplomatic talks took on a new energy. The collaboration that saved Eugene's life had opened doors previously thought locked. Human and Zenari delegates alike spoke of the potential of their combined strengths, particularly in the face of the looming Void collective threat. Hours later, Eugene's eyes fluttered open. He found himself surrounded by a mix of human and Zenari faces, all watching him with varying degrees of relief and interest. "Welcome back," Belos said softly, her hand still resting on his arm. Eugene tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Dr. Chen offered him water, then began to explain what had happened. As Eugene listened, he realized that his actions had set in motion events that would reshape humanity's future in ways he could never have imagined. His gaze met Belos's, and he saw in her alien eyes a reflection of his own wonder and apprehension at what lay ahead. Whatever challenges the future held, be it the Void Collective or the complexities of human-Zenari relations, Eugene knew that the bonds forged in crisis would be key to facing them. As he slowly sat up, the room buzzed with activity. Plans were being made, agreements forged. The air crackled with the energy of possibility. Eugene found himself at the center of it all, still weak but filled with a growing sense of purpose. The door opened and Colonel Hawthorne entered, his face a mix of respect and lingering wariness. "Robinson," he said, "when you're feeling up to it, we need to talk. Things are moving fast, and we need someone who understands both sides." He glanced at Belos, then back to Eugene. "Someone who can bridge the gap." Eugene nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders once more. But as he looked around at the diverse group surrounding him, human and Zenari working side by side, he felt a spark of hope. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Eugene's recovery was slow but steady. As his strength returned, he found himself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. The facility, once a battleground between human and Zenari forces, had transformed into a hub of collaborative effort. In the weeks following the reactor incident, Eugene spent his days in meetings, bridging the communication gap between humans and Zenari. His unique experience working with both species made him an invaluable asset. One morning, as Eugene reviewed reports in the newly established Joint Command Center, Colonel Hawthorne entered with a newcomer in tow. "Robinson," Hawthorne said, "I'd like you to meet Dr. Lydia Phillips. She's a xenobiologist who'll be studying the Zenari medical technology used in your treatment." Dr. Phillips, a woman with sharp eyes and an air of intense curiosity, shook Eugene's hand. "It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Robinson. Your case is fascinating from a medical standpoint." Eugene nodded, still getting used to the attention his near-death experience had brought him. "I'm just glad it's helping to further our understanding of Zenari physiology." As they discussed the potential applications of Zenari medical technology, Belos entered the room. Eugene noticed Dr. Phillips's eyes widen slightly at the sight of the Zenari. "Belos," Eugene said, "this is Dr. Phillips. She'll be working with us on integrating Zenari medical knowledge into our systems." Belos inclined her head in greeting. "Your expertise will be most welcome, Dr. Phillips. There is much we can learn from each other." Their conversation was interrupted by Zexalor, who entered with a grave expression. "We have received new intelligence about the Void Collective," he announced. "They have already conquered several star systems near our space. The situation is more dire than we initially believed." A heavy silence fell over the room. Eugene felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders once more. "We need to act quickly," he said, looking from Hawthorne to Zexalor. "I have an idea for a joint human Zenari defense force." Over the next few days, Eugene worked tirelessly with Belos to develop a plan. They faced numerous challenges: incompatible military structures, differing combat tactics, and vast technological disparities. Eugene's solution was a series of joint training exercises. The first exercise took place in a newly constructed simulation chamber. Eugene watched from an observation deck as human and Zenari soldiers attempted to repel a simulated Void Collective attack. The results were disastrous. "They're not communicating," Belos observed, her alien features creased with concern. Eugene nodded, his mind racing. "We need to force them to work together more closely." An idea struck him. What if we paired them up, one human, one Zenari, working as a unit? The new strategy was implemented immediately. Eugene watched as human Zenari pairs struggled through the simulations, slowly learning to anticipate each other's moves and complement their partner's abilities. As the training progressed, Eugene found himself spending more time with Belos. They worked late into the night, analyzing data and refining strategies. One evening, as they pored over holographic battle simulations, Eugene noticed Belos watching him intently. "Is something wrong?" he asked. Belos hesitated, then spoke. "I find myself concerned for your well-being, Eugene. Your recovery is not yet complete, yet you push yourself so hard." Eugene was touched by her concern. "I'm fine, Belos. This work is important." Before Belos could respond, an alarm blared through the facility. They rushed to the command center, where Dr. Phillips was staring at a large screen in disbelief. "We've detected an unidentified object approaching Earth at high speed," she reported. "Analysis suggests it could be a Void Collective scout ship." The room erupted into a flurry of activity. Hawthorne turned to Eugene. "Robinson, what are our options?" Eugene considered the situation. Their forces weren't fully integrated yet, but they couldn't risk letting a Void Collective scout reach Earth. "We need to intercept it," he said firmly. "A small team, both human and Zenari. We'll investigate and, if necessary, engage. Hawthorne nodded grimly. Who do you recommend to lead this mission? Eugene straightened his shoulders. I'll do it. I have the most experience working with both species. Belos stepped forward. I will accompany him. Our combined knowledge will be crucial for this mission. As preparations for the interception mission began, Eugene and Belos found themselves working in even closer proximity. The stress of the impending mission seemed to heighten every interaction, every shared glance taking on new significance. In the launch bay, Eugene surveyed the prototype human Zenari hybrid spacecraft they would be using. It was a sleek fusion of human and Zenari technology, a physical representation of their alliance. Dr. Phillips approached, carrying a small device. This is a portable version of the radiation treatment you received, she explained. Just in case. Eugene nodded his thanks, acutely aware of the risks they were facing. As he boarded the ship with his team, a mix of human and Zenari soldiers, he caught Belos's eye. No words were needed. They both understood the gravity of their mission. The hybrid ship hummed to life, its systems a testament to what humans and Zenari could achieve together. As they lifted off, leaving Earth's atmosphere behind, Eugene felt a mix of apprehension and willpower. The vast emptiness of space stretched before them, holding both promise and peril. The unidentified object, potentially a harbinger of the Void Collective, lay ahead. As Eugene settled into the command chair, he knew that the success of this mission would determine not just the fate of the human-Zenari alliance, but possibly the future of both their species in the face of a galactic threat. The ship accelerated, carrying them towards their rendezvous with the unknown. The first true test of their fledgling alliance had begun. As they approached the unidentified object, tension filled the hybrid spacecraft's bridge. Eugene leaned forward in his command chair, eyes fixed on the main view screen. Sensors are picking up details, reported Lieutenant Kira, a human officer at the tactical station. The object's design matches known Void Collective signatures. Belos, standing at Eugene's side, nodded grimly. Confirmed. It's a scout ship. Eugene's mind raced through their options. They couldn't allow the scout to report back to the main Void Collective forces, but neither could they risk a direct confrontation that might alert the enemy to their presence. Activate stealth systems, Eugene ordered. Full spectrum camouflage. The ship's hybrid technology sprang to life. Human-designed electromagnetic scramblers meshed seamlessly with Zenari phase-shifting generators, rendering the vessel nearly invisible to both visual and technological detection. As they closed in on the scout ship, Eugene outlined his plan. We'll board the vessel, gather intel, and neutralize it from the inside. Belos's alien features creased with concern. The risk is significant, Eugene. So is the potential reward, he countered. We need that intelligence. The boarding team assembled in the airlock, 4 humans and 4 Zenari, including Eugene and Belos. As the airlock cycled, Eugene felt the familiar rush of pre-mission adrenaline, tempered by the weight of responsibility. Their ship matched velocity with the Void Collective scout, and with a soft thud the 2 vessels connected. The airlock hissed open, revealing the alien interior of the enemy ship. The team moved swiftly and silently through dimly lit corridors. The scout ship's design was unlike anything Eugene had seen before, all smooth, dark surfaces that seemed to absorb light. At the first junction, they encountered resistance. A hovering, spherical drone, overflowing with sensors, rounded the corner. Before it could sound an alarm, Belos leapt into action. With inhuman speed, she closed the distance and deactivated the drone with a precise strike from an energy weapon. Eugene nodded his approval, and the team pressed on. They reached what appeared to be the main data core, a pulsing, organic-looking structure that filled an entire chamber. Corporal Zhang, start the data extraction, Eugene ordered. Belos, help me rig the ship's power core for overload. As they worked, Eugene marveled at the seamless cooperation between humans and Zenari. Months ago, such collaboration would have been unthinkable. Now it felt natural. Suddenly alarms blared throughout the ship. Red light bathed the corridors, and a deep, resonant tone filled the air. "We've been detected!" Belos shouted over the noise. Eugene's mind raced. Zhang, do we have the data? 60% downloaded, sir. It'll have to do. Everyone, back to the airlock. As they retreated, the ship's defenses activated. Panels in the wall slid open, revealing sleek insectoid robots. The machines surged forward, their limbs ending in wickedly sharp blades. The human Zenari team fought back-to-back, their diverse combat styles complementing each other perfectly. Human pulse rifles provided covering fire, while Zenari energy blades sliced through the robotic attackers. They were halfway to the airlock when Eugene heard a high-pitched whine. He turned to see one of the robots targeting Belos with some kind of energy weapon. Without thinking, Eugene threw himself at Belos, knocking her out of the way. Searing pain lanced through his side as the energy blast grazed him. "Eugene!" Belos cried out, catching him as he stumbled. "I'm fine," he gritted out. "Keep moving." They reached the airlock just as a new alarm sounded. The scout ship's engines were powering up. "They're trying to jump away!" Zhang yelled. "Not if I can help it," Eugene muttered. Despite the pain in his side, he interfaced with the hybrid ship's systems through his neural link. With a thought, he activated the ship's tractor beam, locking the scout in place. The team piled into their ship, and Eugene disengaged the airlock. As they pulled away, he triggered the overload sequence they'd planted in the scout's power core. The viewport flared bright as the Void Collective ship exploded behind them. Eugene allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before the gravity of the situation set in. "Did they manage to send a distress signal?" he asked. Zhang checked the sensor logs. "A partial transmission got through before we destroyed the ship." Eugene's heart sank. The Void Collective now knew about Earth and the human Zenari alliance. Their window of preparation had just shrunk dramatically. As they sped back toward Earth, Eugene reviewed the stolen data with Belos. What they found chilled them to the bone. "An attack on the Zenari colony of Vesh Prime," Belos said, her voice tight with concern. "Scheduled to begin in less than a standard week." Eugene nodded grimly. "We need to evacuate that colony immediately." Back on Earth, Eugene's team delivered their report to a joint human Zenari council. The room erupted into heated debate. "We can't possibly mount an evacuation operation on such short notice," protested a human general. "We have no choice," countered a Zenari elder. "Millions of lives are at stake." Eugene stepped forward, wincing slightly from his injury. "With respect, we don't have time for debate. Every moment we delay puts more lives at risk. I volunteer to lead the evacuation mission." His declaration was met with a mix of admiration and concern. Colonel Hawthorne spoke up. "Robinson, you're injured. Are you sure you're up for this?" Eugene stood tall, ignoring the pain in his side. "I'm the most qualified person for this mission. I understand both human and Zenari protocols, and I've faced the Void Collective firsthand." As the council deliberated, Eugene felt Belos's hand on his arm. He turned to meet her gaze. "You continue to surprise me, Eugene," she said softly. "Your willingness to risk yourself for others, it is admirable." Eugene smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with his injury. "It's the right thing to do, and I won't be alone out there." The council's decision came swiftly. The evacuation mission was approved, with Eugene at its head. As preparations began, Eugene found himself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. Ships were readied, supplies were gathered, and a joint human Zenari task force was assembled. Through it all, Eugene pushed himself to the limit, coordinating efforts and strategizing for every possible contingency. As the launch date approached, Eugene stood before the assembled task force. Humans and Zenari stood side by side, united in purpose. He took a deep breath, preparing to address them. The fate of an entire colony, and perhaps the future of the human Zenari alliance, rested on the success of this mission. As Eugene began to speak, he knew that the real challenge was only just beginning. As the real test of their alliance was about to unfold. The task force's fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near the Zenari colony of Vesh Prime. Eugene's eyes widened as he took in the scene before them. Multiple Void Collective ships hung in orbit around the planet, their dark, angular forms a stark contrast to the blue-green world below. "Status report," Eugene ordered, his voice calm despite the tension coursing through him. Lieutenant Kira's fingers flew over her console, detecting 7 Void Collective cruisers and numerous smaller craft. They've already begun surface operations. Belos leaned in, her alien features set in a grim expression. We're too late to prevent their initial assault. We must adapt our strategy. Eugene nodded, his mind racing through tactical options. Agreed. This is no longer just an evacuation. We're looking at a full-scale battle. He opened a channel to the entire task force. All ships, this is Commander Robinson. The situation has escalated beyond our initial parameters. We'll be dividing our forces for a 2-pronged assault. Human vessels will provide long-range fire support, while Zenari ships engage in close-quarters combat. Ground teams will focus on evacuating colonists under our cover. As the fleet sprang into action, Eugene felt a surge of pride. Humans and Zenari moved in perfect synchronization, their complementary strengths creating a formidable fighting force. The space around Vesh Prime erupted into chaos. Human cruisers launched salvos of missiles and energy beams, forcing the Void Collective ships to divide their attention. Zenari vessels darted between the larger craft, their advanced maneuverability allowing them to strike with precision. Eugene coordinated the battle from the command ship, his neural link allowing him to process information at an incredible rate. Beside him, Belos provided invaluable insight into Zenari tactics and colonial layout. We've created an opening, Belos announced, pointing to a gap in the Void Collective's orbital defense. We can begin landing ground forces. Eugene didn't hesitate. All available dropships, move in now. Priority is evacuation of civilians. On the planet's surface, the situation was dire. Void Collective drones swarmed the Zenari cities, their insectoid forms bringing destruction wherever they went. Mixed teams of human and Zenari soldiers fought their way through the chaos, guiding terrified colonists to waiting evacuation ships. Eugene and Belos led a team to secure a vital spaceport. As they pushed through the streets, Eugene marveled at how seamlessly the two species worked together. Human soldiers provided cover fire while Zenari warriors engaged in close combat, their energy blades slicing through drone armor with ease. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the ground. Eugene stumbled, catching himself against a fallen pillar. He looked up to see a swarm of Void Collective reinforcements descending on their position. "Fall back!" he shouted, firing his pulse rifle to cover the retreat. "We need to find a defensible position." Belos grabbed his arm, pointing to a nearby structure. "There, that's an old planetary defense command center. We can hold out there." They sprinted for the building, dodging energy blasts and falling debris. Once inside, Eugene and Belos worked quickly to fortify their position. The rest of their team had been cut off in the chaos, leaving the two of them alone to face the oncoming horde. "Just like old times," Eugene quipped, setting up a portable shield generator. Belos gave him a look that might have been amusement. "I don't recall us ever facing such odds before." "First time for everything," Eugene replied, checking his weapon. The first wave of drones hit like a tidal wave. Eugene and Belos stood back to back, their movements in perfect sync. Eugene's pulse rifle cut down drones at range, while Belos's energy blade dealt with any that got too close. As they fought, Eugene couldn't help but admire Belos's grace and skill. Her alien physiology allowed her to move in ways that seemed to defy physics, each strike precise and devastatingly effective. For her part, Belos found herself impressed once again by Eugene's quick thinking and adaptability. He seemed to anticipate her moves, positioning himself to cover her blind spots without a word being spoken. Just as it seemed they might be overwhelmed, the sound of human and Zenari war cries filled the air. Reinforcements had arrived, cutting through the Void Collective forces with righteous fury. As the last of the drones fell, Eugene allowed himself a moment to catch his breath. He turned to Belos, a question forming on his lips, but was cut off by an urgent transmission. "Commander Robinson." It was Lieutenant Kira, her voice tight with tension. "We've detected a massive energy buildup in the Void Collective flagship. Analysis suggests..." "Sir, they have a superweapon capable of destroying the entire planet." Eugene's blood ran cold. He looked at Belos, seeing his own shock mirrored in her alien eyes. Conventional tactics won't stop that kind of firepower, he said, his mind already formulating a plan. We need to take it out from the inside. Belos nodded, understanding immediately. A small team could infiltrate the command ship using a captured shuttle. We could disable the weapon directly. Eugene opened a channel to the fleet. This is Commander Robinson. I'm initiating Operation Trojan Horse. I need a team of our best operatives, human and Zenari, ready for high-risk insertion in 10 minutes. As they made their way to the rendezvous point, Eugene couldn't shake the feeling that this mission would be a turning point, not just in the battle, but in the war itself. He glanced at Belos, walking steadily beside him, and felt a surge of confidence. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Human and Zenari united against a common threat. As they boarded the captured Void Collective shuttle, Eugene allowed himself a grim smile. The real fight was just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.